Greetings, citizens of the interweb, it's Matt from Hydro Gaming here this week to present yet another video showcasing our single-player medieval fantasy RPG that we're creating using the power of the Unreal Engine. Sorry about the delay for this week's devlog, I've been a little busy doing research. Anyways, today's episode will cover the modular armor and weapon system in Knightwatch. Today's episode is a remake of the original episode 8 from a year and a half ago, which was completely unwatchable. You know the drill at this point. If you're new to the series, we are going through and re-recording the first 12 episodes because they were just so bad. As I mentioned in the last video, I'm throwing together a demo that I'll be releasing soon, release date to be announced. But I've got a few systems I want to finish off first, mainly the quest system and the rest of the first dungeon. Anyways, let's get into today's episode, shall we? Roll the intro. Okay, so what are we talking about today? Something I've been looking forward to for a very long time. Today we're going to be talking about the armor and weapon system in Knightwatch. Originally, what I was going to do when I was first making these episodes way back in the day, episode 8 was just going to cover more locomotion stuff, but I was worried that was getting just a little too dry and I thought we'd take a break from that. I think that was the right choice. So exactly what kind of armor system do I want Knightwatch to have? I'm pretty sure you know the answer already. So we're going to be implementing a system just like what's in most open world RPGs today, like Assassin's Creed, Skyrim, Destiny, hell, even Pokemon has a modular outfit system now. I like modular armor systems because of the creativity they afford the player. You don't just equip one overarching armor set that covers your whole character. You have control over components like boots, gloves, helmets, and in the case of Knightwatch, cloaks as well as chest armor and leg armor separately as opposed to Skyrim where leg armor was tied to torso armor. This allows for a lot of mixing and matching of components to create something that is truly unique to your character. However, this isn't the only reason I love the armor system in Knightwatch. Allow me to explain. If you've seen the lower episodes for Knightwatch, then you know that our game takes place in a time period where you are constantly finding artifacts of the so-called old gods. You may find an ancient helmet that makes it easier to detect enemies, or a wearable artifact created by great warriors of centuries past that increase your hand-to-hand damage output. All that being said, there will always be a plethora of new armor and weapon pieces to equip onto your character, and I need a system that allows me to add these items to the game in an efficient way. So everything is managed by this data table. Adding a new piece of armor or a weapon to the game is a very simple process as this system keeps everything streamlined. And once we've added a new piece of armor or a weapon, we don't have to do anything crazy to get it working with our animations. Because these all share the same skeletal rig as the default Unreal Engine character, we can use a node called Set Master Pose Component in our character blueprint. Basically what this does is it takes any animation being played on our character and applies it to each one of our armor pieces, which you can see here. And now we can run around the game world just fine with our armor, and there's no clipping of our character mesh through the armor aside from the cape, which is a little glitchy, but we can fix that later. So the way the weapon system works in Knightwatch is pretty similar to the armor system. Actually, truth be told, it's exactly the same. So I won't get too in-depth about how I add new weapons to the game, as you already saw in the previous section. What I'll go over here, instead, is how weapon stats and weapon tooltips work. I'll start with the weapon tooltips. So you can hover over a weapon or piece of armor to see its damage output, level requirements, rarity, and a brief description of the weapon. As for the weapon stats, the way damage output is calculated is based on a few factors. The first of which is the weapon itself. Each weapon has a base damage output assigned to it. One of the factors that affects this base damage output is item rarity. Better quality weapons of a higher rarity and level requirement will naturally do more damage in battle. Rarity applies a percentage bonus to weapon damage. Next is the relevant combat level. For example, a higher melee combat level will increase the amount of damage you do with melee weapons. The same goes for range combat level and range weapons and so on. Another thing I wanted to go over today are the updates I made to the weapon trails and animations. I guess I'll start with the weapon trails. Previously, the weapon trails in the game were a little cartoonish as I took some inspiration from games like Genshin Impact. I got quite a few comments asking for something a little more muted and realistic, so here we are. Not as flashy as before, I think what I'll do is save the flashier weapon trails for power attacks. Beyond the update of weapon trails, I've made some changes to the melee combat animations. I felt the old ones were a little boring and lacked any sort of excitement. These are a little more quick and aggressive, which I definitely prefer. Okay, so this part of the video is more of a PSA to any solo or indie developers out there. As I'm sure you know, I am no stranger to the use of purchased assets in my projects. This isn't limited to the use of assets from official engine marketplaces like the Unreal or Unity asset stores. This would also include services like Gumroad or TurboSquid. While I was browsing through Reddit recently, I stumbled across an article that detailed how a development team outsourced the creation of some weapon assets to a developer who simply ripped some gun assets from Black Ops 3 and charged money for them. This resulted in the dev team facing a lot of backlash and possible legal consequences for the inclusion of these stolen assets, even though they claimed to have no idea they were stolen and have since replaced them. The main reason I bring this up is to make a point to those of you who, like myself, use purchased assets in the creation of your games. Do your research. Look into the asset publishers you purchase from. Are they reputable? What do former customers have to say about them? Also, be aware of where you purchase assets from. I mean, obviously when you purchase assets from third-party marketplaces, this is something you should already be thinking of. But it turns out that even the Unreal and Unity marketplaces can have some pirated assets or assets created on pirated software slip through the cracks. The last thing you want is for your game to face legal backlash or even lose its publishing rights because you accidentally included pirated assets. So always double check your sources. No NPC naming this week. Nope, instead we'll be adding a new weapon to the game. This weapon will be named after user Shakir, who was the main driver behind getting the Discord server started. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get to naming an in-game character or item after them in the previous video, so here we are. Introducing the Mace of Shakir, a legendary mace wielded by the great battle mage Shakir, who was instrumental in the containment of the City of the Undead. Shakir was dabbling in ancient magics that he believed could prolong his life, but it's not known if he ever succeeded. If we ever run into him, we'll be sure to reintroduce him to his prized mace. Whether or not that will be a friendly reintroduction is yet to be decided. And I think I've covered everything for today, hopefully I'm not missing anything. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider liking, subscribing, and turning on notifications to stay up to date on all things Knightwatch. In the meantime, please consider joining our new Discord channel to discuss the game, or even just discuss down below in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye guys.